Well, good morning. We're in week 4 of our current series, working our way through the book of James. It's been a fun journey so far. We've already learned so far about James and the book of James that it's direct, it's blunt, it's practical, and it's spot on. Like it is on target all the time. Here in chapter 4, we see that in full display as he throws a pretty hard punch right from the jump, right from the get-go. It's just a hard punch. Find your way to James chapter 4, and we're going to begin in verse number 1. James chapter 4 and verse 1. He comes out swinging, and he says, "What causes the quarrels? What causes the fights among you?" Now, if I just paused here for a moment, and if I were to just randomly select 10 people to come up here on stage and to describe the last argument or fight, conflict that you were in, my guess is that of the 10 people who would describe that fight or that quarrel, that it would include things like, well, you know, I was just trying to explain to my husband what he should be doing, and then he got all, then he just, and so I had to respond, right? Or it would be, you know, I'm just trying to relax after work, and my wife is just nagging, and so, you know, I didn't mean to start something, but, you know, I said something, you know, because, or you would say something like, you know, all I was doing was trying to buy something at the store, and the clerk is just such a moron. Like they were just, and they kept pushing it, and you know, I lost my temper. That's what it would include. That person in traffic, right? They wouldn't get out. Do you ever notice that when you're on the highway, anyone driving faster than you is an idiot? You know, look at that idiot. You're going 85, they pass you. What an idiot. They're going, but anyone going slower than you is a moron. All right, so they're only going 70. Come on, what a moron. Get out of the way. All right, so you're the only one that's going the right speed. Right, that's kind of the way it is. But that's a whole nother topic. But it would include, it's not my fault. It's their fault. I was doing this. They caused me. And sometimes that's true. Sometimes you're just trying to mind your own business, and somebody just keeps pushing and pushing. Like, how many of you have seen the video circulating around the internet about the pastor in Louisiana? Raise your hand if you've seen that video. Oh, it's a good one. This pastor, he's not a young man. You have to see it, but there's a family across the street from the church that for years was harassing, antagonizing, cussing at, degrading this pastor, church members, the church, and on this particular day, the pastor's just out working on the church bus, and the 20-something-year-old kid from across the street, running his mouth, and the pastor's just working, ignoring him, and then the kid says that he was going to do some pretty vile things to this man's wife and daughter, and that if he ever left to go out of town, he was going to kill them. And then he said, "What are you going to do about it?" So the pastor puts his stuff down, and he goes towards the kid aggressively, probably trying to just share the love of Jesus with him, I'm sure. And when he gets there, the kid's like filming him, and then the kid throws a punch, which he deflects, and then he throws another punch, and then the pastor like puts a beat down on him, like puts him on the ground, and he anointed his head and laid him down in green pastures. That's what he did. You can check out the video. Sometimes, you know, you just, it is in response to, but typically, that's not the case. And in fact, that's what James, he says, what causes the quarrels? What causes the fights among you? And it's not someone else. Here's what he says. Keep reading. He says, is it not that your passions are at war within you? In the New Living Translation, it says, don't they come from the evil desires at war within you? Don't try to put the blame off on someone else. You have to own it, James says. This is your issue. It's not about someone else. When our kids were small and they were like any other family's kids and they would get in squabbles and fights at home, and then one of them would say, well, they made me mad. And we would say, nobody can make you mad. You choose to get mad. All right, this is not their issue. It's your issue. So let's get started this morning. The first thing in your notes is this. The biggest battles in my life aren't around me. They're inside of me. The biggest battles aren't out there because of someone else. The biggest battles are in here because of me, because of the evil desires inside of me. That's what he's communicating. And then he pushes even harder, like he really leans into this as we get to verse 2. He says, you desire what you don't have, so you murder. You covet and cannot obtain, so you fight and quarrel. See, we all want what we don't have. What we desire is not in our hands, and so it creates conflict. Whether that's the thing that we want is power, or we want position. Like in our workplace, like you have that supervisory position, and I want it. I should have it. And so it creates conflict. Maybe it's with money. It's something with wealth and resources, or it's recognition. You're getting all the recognition. I'm doing all the work, right? I want what you're getting, and so it's causing fights and quarrels. I think this is one of the biggest issues of our time. See, it doesn't matter how much we have. We tend to be consumed on what we don't have. We lose focus on how much God has blessed us because we're focused on something that someone else has that we wished we had. And so we forget about all the blessings and the benefits and all the things that God has showered us with, and we lose our focus, and it causes fights and quarrels. You see, we tend to look at rich people, whoever they are. Typically, it's just whoever has more than you have. And so we look at the rich people and we say, oh, I want what they have. Now, let me give you real quickly 3 wealth perspectives. Okay, it's real simple. They're all starting with the letter S, so it's easy to remember. 3 wealth perspectives. The first one is selfishness. Selfishness. That's when we say what's mine is mine. I worked hard for this. I get to do whatever I want with it. It's mine. Like, don't try to tell me what to do with my money. Like, it's my responsibility. I get to do whatever I want. It's mine. It's selfishness. I get to spend it on myself. The second perspective, starts with S, is stealing. Is what's yours is mine. It's when you think, okay, here's my neighbor. I know they have some stuff inside of their home. I'm going to break into their home and take it because I want it. That's called stealing. Culturally, what that looks like is Marxism or socialism. It's a socialism. It's if you have something and I want it, well, the government should come in and take it from you and give it to me. So we're all kind of equal. Does that sound like a good idea to you? No. That's stealing, whether it's the government stealing your stuff and giving it to someone else, or someone breaking into your home and stealing it for themselves or to give to someone else. It's still stealing. What's yours is mine. I want it. I deserve it. I should have it. It's unfair that you have all of this and I don't have it. The third perspective is stewardship. What's mine is his. Whatever I have in this life is not because I am so awesome and I've worked so hard, though perhaps you have worked hard, but it's simply because God has chosen to bless you and to give you whatever you have. It's all his. You're simply a steward of the resources that God has given you. Those are the three perspectives. Now, what James is addressing here is the quarrels and fights that are caused from the first two perspectives, selfishness and stealing. The third perspective, stewardship, well, that's the antidote. That's the solution to the quarreling and fighting. If we are truly good stewards of the resources, whatever they might be, if we're good stewards of them, then we are willing to share with those who are in need. It's not selfish. It's, hey, I have it. I probably have an abundance. I would love to share that with you. Not sharing because we're forced to share. That's not sharing. It's not stewardship. That's stealing. It's someone taking something that you have worked hard to obtain. See, stewardship is, I recognize that what I have is a blessing. It's recognizing that I have way more than I deserve. Like, this is incredible. And I just want to be generous with it. That's the antidote. And so, good stewardship is the solution to the quarrels and fights that he's talking about in verse 1. Now, before we read into verse 4, keep in mind that we've already established some things about James and the way he communicates. We've already established that he is blunt, like he is just to the point, doesn't pull any punches. And here's a great example. We're about to experience the confrontational personality of James. Verse 4, here's what he says: "You adulterous people." He doesn't say, hey, listen, folks, I know you're struggling in life and this is hard. Like, my heart goes out to you because I know you're trying really hard. He says, "You adulterous people. Do you not know that friendship with the world is enmity with God? Therefore, whoever wishes to be a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of God." Number 2, write this in your notes. Divided loyalty creates spiritual conflict. Divided loyalty. It creates the spiritual conflict inside of us that ultimately leads to quarrels and fights. James calls us adulterous because he's looking at the relationship that we have with God in covenant terms. We are in a covenant relationship with God. So he's speaking covenant language. And God is not looking for casual acquaintances. God is looking for a faithful bride. We are the bride of Christ, and he wants us to be faithful, not a casual acquaintance. And when we flirt with the world, when we flirt with the world's values, the world's perspectives, when we flirt with pride, self-promotion, compromise, comfort at any cost, James says, well, that's the equivalent of having an affair. That's like cheating on Jesus when we do that. You see, this wedding ring is a constant reminder to me and other people that I'm committed to my wife, Trudy, that I made a covenant with her. I made a commitment to her to be in an exclusive relationship with her and her alone. Now, if I walked in the house this afternoon and I said, honey, listen, you know that I love you. And of all the women that I love, like, I love you the most. I mean, there's a few that I really love, but not nearly as much as I love you. I want to spend most of my time with you. But there's a couple of other women that, I mean, they make me feel good. And so I just want you to know I'm going to be seeing them a little bit also. I'm pretty sure that I'm not walking out of that conversation. I'm going to limp, crawl, or be drug out of that. You with me, Bart? It's like, you're a big dude. I'm not thinking you walk out of that conversation See, the thing is, your wife and they know where we sleep. Okay, they'll get us. So that wouldn't go well for anyone in this room. Ladies, if you went up to your husband and said, I love you the most of all the other men in my life, it's not going to go well. Why? Because you made a commitment. It's a covenant. It's exclusive. That's what James is trying to communicate here. That when we say, well, yes, we love Jesus, but we're also a friend of the world, he said it doesn't work that way. You immediately become an enemy of God. You can't have it both ways. He's looking for a faithful bride. James is not saying that we cannot have hobbies, that we can't do things in this life that we enjoy. He's not saying that it's wrong and you can't sit down and watch a football game or a soccer match, or you can't enjoy a day at the lake. That's not what he's saying here. He's talking about alignment. Alignment, making sure that we are in alignment, that the things that shape our values, our identity, our decisions are in alignment with Him, that we're committed to Him, that He has control, that He's the one who's leading our lives. Now, friendship with the world means that you want the applause of the world more than you want the approval of God. And that's common. We all wrestle with that. We all want people to applaud us. We all want people to say how awesome we are. It's a common thing. So this isn't me saying, look at you evil people who sometimes you want the applause of. We all wrestle with it. James is saying, when you want the applause more than you want the approval of God, that's a problem. You become a friend of the world, which makes you an enemy of God, because you can't have the applause of the world and the approval of God. Those are two polar opposite things. Friendship with the world means that you adopt the world's priorities instead of God's priorities. That the things that the world says are the most important things in life, that you adopt those things instead of looking at God's word and saying, no, I'm in alignment with God's priorities. And then being a friend of the world means that you blend in so well with the world that you can't even tell that you're a follower of Jesus. Now, we have people here in all ages. And so we have students here on the front row. Thank you for being right here, front and center. Good job. Give them a hand. They're right here. Like they want to know. They don't want to be distracted by everything happening back there, right? They're up front. But when you go into school coming up here in August, you can either blend in or you can stand out. And when you blend in, people are going, I didn't even know they went to church. But when you stand out, people are going to recognize, okay, they're different. And that's important. Moms, dads, men, women here of all ages. When you go to your kids' ball games, when you go to work, when you're doing neighborhood things, and you just blend in so well, no one even knows that you're a Christ follower. That's not a good thing. What it is, it's an indication that you've become a friend of the world. It's an indication that you have just blended in so well that you've separated yourself from God. Because if you're a Christ follower, a passionate Christ follower, and you're devoted, exclusive with Jesus, it's going to show. People are going to know. Like, you don't have to be around me very long to know that I'm married, that I love my wife. Like, it comes out. And if I'm part of your life for very long at all and you don't know that I have a wife, that's a problem. See, you can't walk towards God and walk towards the world at the same time. So if all the world's values are over here and Jesus is over here, I can't walk towards Jesus and the world's values. They're polar opposite directions. You got to choose one or the other. And that's what James is calling us out on. And he's saying, if you choose to be friends with the world, you're turning your back on Jesus. You become an enemy of his. A divided heart always leads to a divided life. You can't do both. And a divided life always leads to spiritual frustration when you're saying, I don't know, I used to have a good quiet time and now I don't. I used to enjoy worship and now it's something, God just seems so far away and it's not what it used to be. Why? It's because you've lost your first love. You've turned your back on your first love. God wants your whole heart, not half of it. He wants an exclusive relationship with you and with me. And so James's tone here is very strong, and yet at the same time, Jesus' heart for you and I is very compassionate and tender. It's strong language with a tender heart. And it's saying, hey, come on, this isn't right, but I love you, and I invite you in. Not to shame you, but to call you into a deeper relationship. And so Jesus wants you to be fully his, fully surrendered, fully aligned. And the reason is because that's where the joy is. That's where the power is. That's where peace is. And James understands the struggle. Like he's a man too. He understands. He wrestles with this. And he's like, come on, don't be an adulterer. And I know some of you are, spiritually. But then look at this in verse 6. He says, but he gives more grace. Not just enough grace. James doesn't say, and he gives barely enough grace to cover you. He's like, no, he gives more grace. He gives more grace. His grace outpaces your sin. It outpaces your temptation. It outpaces your mistakes. It outpaces everything that you're doing in life that are failures and shortcomings. His grace outpaces all of that. His grace is more. Therefore, keep reading. Therefore, it says, God opposes the proud but gives grace to the humble. Verse 7, submit yourself, therefore, to God, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. The next thing in your notes, submission is not weakness, it's alignment. When you submit to Christ, it's not that I am so weak, I am a nobody. It's no, I'm in alignment. I'm making a choice. James quotes Proverbs chapter 3 and verse 34 here when he says God opposes the proud. He says that God in Proverbs 3:34 gives grace to the humble. See, pride is not just arrogance, though it is arrogance. It's not just that, it's more. Pride is a self-dependence. Pride uses words like I, me, my. How many of you have ever said, or someone recently has said to you, I know. You're trying to tell someone something and they're like, I know. Parents, can you feel me? When you're trying to tell your child. When our kids were in high school, we went to a parent-teacher conference, and I told one of the teachers, I said, I think you guys should get a raise. You guys are amazing. Like, you are phenomenal, because my kids know everything. I can't tell them anything. Like, you've done a fabulous job. Every time I try to tell them something, they're like, I know. It's like, good job, teachers. They know everything. But how many times have we said that when someone has tried to instruct us? I know. I have it all planned out. I've got it under control. I can do this. I can deal with it. I'll take care of it. When we say things like, well, I have my way. Like, this is the way I do it. It's my way. It's my plan, my system. I have this system that, or how many of you ever said, listen to me, listen to me. Like, please listen to me. Let me tell you something. See, those are all indications of pride. But humility says, Lord, you know what I need. I don't know what I need. I know what I want, but you know what I need. Lord, I trust you to guide my life. Like, so humility is saying, I don't know really what to do. I'm just trusting God to do it, to give me a direction. Humility is saying, Lord, your way is better than my way. Like I just lay it all down. I submit to you, and whatever you want, I'm willing to do. Now, submission is not God putting his foot on your throat and causing you to submit. Submission is you stepping under his leadership, his wisdom, his protection, his authority. It's you choosing to willingly get in alignment with him. To say, God, I want you to call the shots in my life because I trust you more than I trust myself. And when you do that, something powerful happens in life. When you submit to Christ and you live a life in submission to him and in alignment with him and his word, something powerful happens. All right, so then he goes on, he says, resist the devil and he will flee from you. Don't get the order mixed up here. Look carefully at that passage, at the order. Submit to God, get in alignment with him, then resist the devil, then he will flee from you. Listen, you cannot resist the devil while you're negotiating with him. You can't resist an enemy that you're in negotiations with, saying, okay, listen, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to cross that line, so just work with me here. We do that with the enemy all the time. We're in negotiations with the enemy. You cannot be in alignment with God. You cannot be in submission to God while at the same time you're negotiating with the enemy. Nor will you be able to resist the enemy. The moment you start to negotiate with your enemy, he's got you. There's no negotiations. It's full alignment, full submission. I cannot negotiate my way into another relationship with Trudy. Like I could okay, now listen, is it okay if I just hold somebody else's hand? Okay, can I do that? What if we just go to dinner? It's just, we're not going to do anything, and you negotiate. You can't do that. There's no negotiation when you're fully devoted, fully committed, when it's an exclusive relationship. So we keep reading in verse 8. Okay, so submit to God, then resist the devil. And then he says, verse 8, draw near to God and he will draw near to you. Cleanse your hands, you sinners, and purify your hearts, you double-minded. See, God is not going to force you to get close to him. He wants you to choose him, to be in alignment with him, to be submitted to him. So the next thing there in your notes, write down, God moves towards those who move towards him. God is not hard to find. He's not distant. God isn't even playing hard to get. See, the moment you make even a slight movement towards God, even just a little bit, he moves towards you with grace and strength. His presence is right there. I don't know if you've ever felt like God was just so far away from you. If you've ever been in a season of your life when you're like, gosh, God seems so distant. Like I used to feel close to him, but now I don't feel that closeness. I want you to know if that's where you are today, he is closer than you realize. He has not abandoned you. He has not run off from you. He was right there. And all he's waiting for is a slight movement, a little bit of movement towards him, and he's right there. He's like, come on, come on. Just like those when you have little kids, and they're holding on to something, and you're like, come on, come on. And you don't move, and they don't move. But the moment they let go to start taking that first step, you know that they're likely to fall. You're right there. That's God. He's like, just come on, just move a little bit towards me, and I'm going to be right there with my presence, with my grace, with my strength. He's just waiting for you to make that first movement towards him, and then he'll come close to you. Now, as we move on through the rest of the chapter, James continues to press us. He continues to get real up close and personal. And as we come to the end of the chapter, we're confronted. Now, how many of you have ever said, before we jump into that passage, how many of you have ever said, I know what I should do? I know what I should be doing, I just don't want to do it. I don't want to do it right now. I will. I'll get to it. I know what to do. Raise your hand if you've ever been there. I know what I should do. I'm just not doing it. So it's not out of ignorance. Because we know. Chapter 4, as it begins to come to a conclusion, there's some pretty powerful statements. Verse 17, look at it. James says, so, whoever knows the right thing to do and fails to do it, for him it is what? Sin. And see, I didn't say that. You said it. You acknowledged it. James tells us it's sin. When you know what you should be doing, you just don't do it. He says that's sin. Here at New Life, we don't shy away from talking about sin. Is that a good thing? I'm not afraid to talk about sin. Now, I'm not going to just pinpoint one sin. I'll talk about all sin. I'll talk about my sin, your sin in general. We're equal opportunity offender, when it comes to sin. And if there's sin, we'll talk about it, even if you get a little bent out of shape because, it's a sin that you struggle with. Sin is sin. And this verse, it's intended to hit you like a spiritual gut check. And James is saying sin isn't only doing those egregious things that you know you shouldn't be doing, the big obvious stuff like lying, cheating, stealing, having an affair, giving someone the finger in traffic, murder, all those big, okay, I don't do any of those things. Some of you grew up in a religion or a faith or a home that you learned about sins of commission and sins of omission. Well, those things that I just talked about, those are sins of commission. Those are things that you commit. But James is saying, no, there's another category, and it's the sins of omission. The sin of silence. The sin of hesitation. The sin of, I know, I'll get to it later. What James is telling us is if God has made the right thing very clear and you choose comfort over obedience, that's sin. Have you ever had that moment personally when you felt God kind of nudge you and you had this thought, this something that stirred in you for a moment, and you thought, I should serve. I should step up. I should get more involved in church. I should be a bigger part of what's happening in my church family. I should give more. I should do this. And you had that feeling, and then it's like you wanted to, and then you forgot. You left, you got busy in your week, and it didn't come back to you, and so you just moved on and you forgot about it. And you rationalized it and you said, oh, I'm busy. And James says, no, you're a sinner. That is sin. When the Holy Spirit nudges you to do something, you know you should do it, and then you don't do it, that's sin. You see, you and I are blessed because we get to be a part of a vibrant, growing church that's impacting the kingdom and changing our community. You and I get to be a part of something that God is doing very special here at New Life. And not every church can say that. We have some great churches here in Gardner that can also be said of them. But not every church can that be said of, either here in Gardner or across the United States. But here at New Life, I can 100% say that we are part of a vibrant, growing church that is impacting the kingdom. We're growing. We're changing lives. And our pastors and elders and all of our staff are working hard to make sure that we not only enjoy the blessings of what God has done up to this point, but we're working hard to make sure that we're prepared to enjoy all the blessings that God has for us in the future. Because where we are today is not where we're going to be 6 months or a year from now. And that's good news. Like, we're going to be bigger. We're going to be better. We're going to be stronger. We're going to make even more impact in our community. God is working here, and that's a good thing. And so we're working hard to make sure that we get prepared. Specifically, what that looks like for us is we're working hard to prepare and to get ready for the launch of a third Sunday morning worship service. Right now, our worship times are at 8:45 and 10:45. Sometime in the next 2, 3, 6 months, I don't know, sometime in the near future, that's going to change because we're growing. And we're going to offer a third worship service. I don't know when that's going to happen. It might happen in August. It could happen in October. It might happen in January. All I know is it's going to happen. And what's going to enable us to launch that third service and to continue making an impact in the kingdom and in our community is your willingness to respond to the nudge that the Holy Spirit is stirring in you to say, I should be doing more. I should serve. I should get more connected. I should be doing something. So I'm going to ask you to pray. And I don't want your prayer to be, God, do you want me to get involved? I can answer that prayer for you. God already told me, yes, he does. You can read the Bible. He does. So that's not your prayer. Your prayer isn't, God, do you want me to be involved? Your prayer is, God, where do you want me to serve? Where do you want me to step up? In what ways? Because our impact is dependent upon your obedience. It's that simple. And James understood that. And James is telling the believers there, when you know the right thing to do and you don't do it, that's sin. And you should repent and you should change. And so we're going to ask you to begin praying and saying, where do you want me to serve? And I'm going to narrow it down a little bit and ask you to pray about 2 specific areas. Early childhood, meaning nursery up to 5-year-olds, and then our first impressions, greeters, ushers, parking lot, security team. Those areas. Because those, when we launch a third service, those are the 2 areas that are going to take the hardest hit. It just requires a lot of people to make that happen. So just begin praying. And say, God, where do you want me to serve? See, sometimes the greatest spiritual battles aren't between good and evil. They're between good and convenient. The hard battles are fought between comfort and calling. When God is calling you to something, but you know it's going to interfere with your comfort. James is calling us to a faith that moves, a faith that acts, a faith that doesn't just acknowledge the truth, but acts upon the truth. He's calling us to a faith that doesn't just see that there's a need, but that steps up and says, I want to be part of filling that need. So, if you know that you need to forgive, do it. If you know that you need to apologize, do it. If you know that you need to serve, do it. If you know that the Holy Spirit is prompting you to step up and to step out, do it. Because if you don't, it's sin. Delayed obedience is still disobedience. Partial obedience is still disobedience. In your notes, write this down. Obedience tomorrow is disobedience today. If you say, well, I know I'll do it tomorrow, you're being disobedient today. And that's sin. So I'm going to close, not with leaving you with the heavy burden of sin, but I want to leave you today with the good news. You want to hear some good news to go along with the heavy burden of sin? The good news is that this verse is not intended, this passage is not intended to crush you. It's meant to wake you up, to call you out, to inspire you. This passage is intended not to condemn you, but to invite you in to a deeper, more committed relationship, exclusive relationship with Jesus. And then here's the grace when he says, and even more grace. Here's the grace. Every time that you and I choose the right thing, even when it's hard, God meets us with strength, with joy, and with blessing on the other side. When we step out, he's like, I'm right there. I want to bless you. I want to give you peace. I want to give you joy in that journey. So as you pray, listen, and then respond. Just be obedient to do what he asks you to do. And when you do, there will be strength and joy and a blessing on the other side of that. Faith that works is faith that works in doing the right thing, doing what you know you need to do.